there are many, you know, universities, institutions that are teaching knowledge management. Oftentimes, there has been a struggle even trying to identify organizations and even places where the universities can attach or send their students for internship for attachment. So because of that, there has been that challenge, and this challenge we do appreciate in small ways that through these formations we have been able to echo our voices in various sectors that we present or represent. There are many, like our colleague said, has had an interest in knowledge management, and through these forums, we are able to learn from each other and even network and even call or pull our hands together to carry out consultants work, to carry out, capacity building, to carry out sensitizations on behalf of the government and the private sector in this area of knowledge management. So we wish to thank you so much for finding time to join. When you do find time, you can also check on our website, www.kmpsk.or.ke, for more information on how you can get engaged. We are working towards building a profile of knowledge management practitioners on that website, so that whoever wants to link up with the professionals in this area can quickly find them, and also the subject matter experts in this area. So as of now, the challenge we've had is we are all scattered all over. We don't know each other. When these opportunities arise, you don't know whom to call, whom to contact, how to reach out to them. So we are also trying to build up that database or the register to help us be able to communicate and network in a much more organized way. So that is just a brief of it. A lot of information is on the website. If you find time, you can check on that. And one thing I needed to emphasize is this is a voluntary professional body, just like any other. And we will be rolling out CBD points that would advance you in your areas of specialization where you work. You may have had accountants earning CPA points, and you wonder, what is this? How can we get ours? So basically, we working towards that, and the best way is when you are a member, then you are able to benefit from that. We have had requests of staggered payments for those who would wish to register. Our aim is for you to register, just express the interest. The discussions as how to make the payments, the annual subscriptions, really shouldn't worry you so much. We are young, we are growing, and therefore we will take each one of your needs into consideration, even as we grow this body. We need leadership. We need people to volunteer. We need to go for the professional body elections to have new officers in office. So that's an area we would like you to get engaged, so that when we call for those general meetings, we are able to have a sound and right people to represent us. I just want to leave it at that, but I'm sure we'll be able to engage further on that. So today's discussion really is on generative artificial intelligence. You may have heard about this term, artificial intelligence, and how it's really disrupting business processes across organizations. What does it mean? How can we, use it to our advantage? At the core of this is knowledge management. It's tied together with the artificial intelligence. People have said that with the emerging of this new technology of artificial intelligence, we are going to have problems with knowledge management. How are we going to, run our tasks, our work? But the beauty, as we will see today, is it's a term that, an area that works closely with knowledge management. And therefore, today we will learn on this and of course, get the practical, in-depth discussion on how we benefit from the tool. Our guest speaker is one of our friend, a friend of ours, who has been in this industry as well for a while now. John Nduri, who is currently the Global Knowledge Manager at the Habitat for Humanity International, where, among other roles, he is tasked with contributing thought and technical leadership in establishing and nurturing the organization's International Knowledge Center. What they do here is they collaborate with subject matter experts to identify critical knowledge, resources, and assets. They create or write or capture, store, deploy, the knowledge management centered tools such as SharePoint, online, they tag and publish content for the organization's audiences, and his audience is quite wide. In Africa, Latin America, and Caribbean, Asian and Pacific, Europe and Middle East. So he's going to share with us a versatile of experiences running this or institutionalizing knowledge management in these places. Of course, setting up also communities of practice to enhance knowledge sharing using various tools such as the Yammer and Microsoft Teams. I'm sure this is an area you'll be interested to know. How can you leverage such tools to make use of them in your areas of specialization? So he has been assigned a special project which is aimed at leveraging generative artificial intelligence to enhance knowledge management at his organization. So he's contributed widely for over 18 years to a multi-sector and cultural diverse experiences across the domains that I've said. He also has a master's in information and knowledge management from JQuat. He is a certified knowledge manager from the US-based Knowledge Management Institute, which we are gladly pursuing for partnership as the Knowledge Management Practitioner Society. So be on the lookout for that. He is also has accreditation with the Knowledge Associates Cambridge, a UK-based organization. He is a doctorate student at the Technical University of Kenya, and so I'm sure there's quite a lot to benefit from him. So without much ado, I would wish to welcome Mr. John Nduri to make his presentation. And of course, he will share his experiences. We will have questions and respond to them towards the end of the session. So thank you very much. Welcome, my brother, Daktari in the making.
Thank you so much, colleagues. That is such an elaborate introduction. I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Geoffrey. I acknowledge presence of colleagues, my lecturers here. And so I regard this is a discussion like the Swiss government, where it's the one speaking among equals. So today, allow me to speak before you, but as an equal and as someone who is also interested in learning together with you. I've been tasked, and I know I'm conscious of the time. We are supposed to end at 8:45 p.m. I'll make it very quick to the extent possible, and allow me just to share my screen here. Let me know if it is visible on your side.
Yes, on behalf of the team, I think it's okay. You can put it on the slide mode. I think that is, yeah, it's right there. You can proceed.
Okay, but is it showing one slide at a time or several?
It is showing one at a time.
Okay, thank you. So the task here is generative artificial intelligence. and knowledge management for the Kenyan context. We all know this, so I decided to propose an agenda for this discussion. What is artificial intelligence? In just a sentence. What is generative artificial intelligence? And then look at the nexus between knowledge management and the impact generative artificial intelligence is having on it. And then attempt to talk about the Kenyan context in that perspective of KM and generative artificial intelligence, and then make some proposals, and we open it up for discussions. So by introduction, artificial intelligence, in simple words, without going technical into the language learning models and all that, because that will now be the back end IT. This is the ability of a computer or computer controlled robot or gadget to perform tasks that are normally associated with intelligent beings. Okay. Let's use that simplistic explanation. And I was taught somewhere by Dr. Wano and the likes that if you can explain it in terms as simple enough for a grade 2 student to learner to understand, then maybe that could be one. But behind it, there are a lot of things that go on for the computer to be able to mimic human intelligence. And colleagues, you know very well that for a long time, we have tried, because we say that don't reinvent the wheel. What does that mean in practice? It means if I had done something or someone has done something and they succeeded or failed to a certain degree, how do you leverage? How do you pick and take advantage of that to do a better job, to come up with a better outcome? Okay, so artificial intelligence, for a long time, there have been discussions signaling that we should be able to clone our brains. To clone our brains to the extent that your great-great-grandmother, great-great-grandfather, great-great-uncle, great-great-aunt, what did they know? Because we here in Africa, when an old person dies, a library is burnt down with them. So knowledge management and artificial intelligence have been trying to get to that point. How do we capture what is in people's heads? What have they read? What do they know? Knowledge management, as you know, is the identification, capture, storage, sharing, and more importantly, application of, allow me to use the broad categorization of tacit and explicit forms of knowledge to achieve set goals. Each organization have their own different goals. So you can see from the introduction alone, you want to identify, capture, store, share, and apply both tacit and explicit forms of knowledge to achieve your set goals. This is so important to emphasize, set goals, because knowledge is contextual. What is important to another person may not be important to another. The other day, I made an observation when we had these touts, you know, the way touts jump from moving vehicles. You have also seen that with our disciplined forces. They are able to jump from a moving vehicle and not fall down. That is very critical knowledge for that kind of work. It may not be critical for you. So how do you manage the knowledge to achieve your set goals? So you can see a link. You are able to identify, capture, store, share, and apply tacit explicit knowledge. And now we are having computers or robots who are able to mimic things that are normally associated with human beings. And this is why this topic is of interest to us. And as you know, knowledge management has been around for quite a while, decades. And the promise of AI in innovation, in knowledge management, actually was, as we just said, has been on the fringes for years. It was just possible, but not quite ready for that prime time. And then what has happened? Something has walked into our room, a new friend called generative artificial intelligence. And I hope you are keenly observing, and we will have the discussion. It's literally turning knowledge management world upside down. It's not an apocalyptic proclamation, but as we'll see in the other sides, it's making things easier, but then asking us to apply some things that the machine is not able to apply. So I'll pick 5 points on what generative artificial intelligence is able to do, and then I'll show with a practical example. I've logged on to ChatGPT. I've logged into Cloud 2, and we can see how these tools can do so much. Okay. I only have 8 slides because I think, and I'm persuaded that this is a discussion of one person speaking among equals. So I only had prepared 8 slides, and the slides may not have so much power. You know, they say PowerPoints, but I'm always careful. Do my slides really have power? So the first thing that generative artificial intelligence is able to do is the power of the first draft. You know that whenever you are developing a knowledge product, and we have interacted with the SESI model of socialization, externalization, combination, and internalization. Developing the first draft is normally the most difficult part, okay? I mean, everyone here has done an undergraduate or a diploma, a master's or PhD project. Generating the first draft is normally such a big issue. Now, generative AI, and you will find in most organizations where you get the benefit of youth power and fresh graduates power, where they are very sharp, they are very able to generate the first draft with a lot of ease. However, generative AI does that like 1,000 interns, and I'll show you just shortly. And we can do it with a topic of your choice. We just give the topic, we'll put in the chatbots straight away, and you will see how it's able to do that. And then the other bit that generative AI has been able to do is it's very transformative in the sense that it enables us to create knowledge from facts and procedures with a lot of ease. I mean, I had in the panel, in the audience, we have colleagues from, I mean, let's say the academia, for instance. I have always desired, okay, to be able to share the little that I know as I learn from the rest. However, I have not been trained in pedagogy or andragogy. How do you share knowledge? And this is something that is a problem even in our institutions, because I can become a lecturer, but I've not been trained on how do you prepare a lesson plan? How do you break 45 minutes to be meaningful? How do you pick the most effective questions to test whether the audience have picked the topics or not? So generative AI is able to create knowledge from facts and figures, meaning sort of data analysis, okay? Data analysis, if you have graphs, if you have essays, prose, and you want to convert that into tables, graphs, it does that very well. And then thirdly, what we call machine learning, the large language models. If you feed your data, organizational data and information into one of these chatbots, the system by itself is able to learn and improve itself continuously without your effort. For instance, if you have a manual or a standard operating procedure, if you link that database to generative AI, it's able to continuously improve itself without your effort. And I'll show you a sample of how that is happening. And then also with synthesis. For those you've done your diploma, undergraduate, master's, PhD thesis, you can imagine how it has been overwhelming a task to read 30 journal papers, to read some books, and synthesize, the SESI model of combination. You read from this source, you read from this other source, and then you have to synthesize all that. It's been a challenge, and generative artificial intelligence is able to do that, not only using your internal, but also using external content. So you'd say something like, I want to develop a standard operating procedure on, let's say, record retention and disposal, okay? The policy. Record detention, retention policy. It's able to use your internal as well as external. And the other one is for the synthesis, just to say one other example. You use charts in your organization. You could be for business, for those who are still using Skype, although it's being retired. You could be using Teams. You could be using Viva Engage, what was previously Yammer before. Generative artificial intelligence is able to crawl across all these and make sense. Meaning, if you want to develop a list of frequently answered questions with answers, you are able to dig and get content from as far back as you'd want. And then the fifth example that I would want to give in the interest of time to allow us more time for demonstration, practical demonstration and discussion, generative AI is conversational. We have Google, we have Bing, we have all these search engines that have been there. But they have been static, not dynamic, okay? For generative AI, I can say, I can instruct it, and we will do it shortly. I instruct it that acting as a revise editor, correct grammatical, logical mistakes in the following essay, and then you just copy the essay, paste it there. Then I can say, based on the essay, develop possible master's level research objectives, and it will give you very quickly. So you find it is dynamic, it is conversational, and therefore it's easier to understand, and it enables the end user to have a better experience. I only have 2 more slides. Actually, the last one is not really having much content. Before going into a practical demonstration, so where are we at in Kenya? I only have questions. I have more questions than answers here. But we all agree that a lot has been going on in Kenya concerning knowledge management. We now have knowledge management as our lead. Geoffrey mentioned being taught in universities, being taught in institutions or tertiary level institutions. Let's just say it, because there are different elements to knowledge management. Like the technical university I know has been having diploma programs in library science for a very long time. These are all components that lead to this. To the extent now we even have the Knowledge Management Practitioners Society of Kenya. And in semi-autonomous government agencies, parastatals, you have knowledge management units and all that. And there is even a policy on knowledge management. So a lot has been going on. But what about artificial intelligence and the sub of it, generative artificial intelligence? What is going on in this sector? I would like to pose a question, 2 questions. The first one, there is whether you have ever heard of the Tech Innovators Network. They call themselves Think. So Think is a group of technology innovators who have come together, and they launched a community of practice on artificial intelligence. However, their focus, so far what I've gathered, is that their focus is on the tech side, how it relates with IT, and less on how does AI enhance, threaten, or make better knowledge management. And I think this is an opportunity for the Knowledge Management Practitioners Society of Kenya to get into such a discussion. And they have very good funders and partners. University of Cambridge, for instance, the University of Nairobi is very, very active in that forum. So how do we, as knowledge management practitioners, have agency, take courage, and look for a slot on that table where artificial intelligence is being discussed? Of course, everybody will come in with their bias, okay? There is so much that artificial intelligence can do across sectors, from education, from health, agriculture, and so on and so forth. So each person should bring in their perspective. That is one thing I have heard about Tech Innovators Network. There will be some conference in Japan in October this year about artificial intelligence and higher education. And you know, with higher education, this is where minds are prepared to contribute to solving prevailing challenges. So my question would be to the institutions of higher learning. How are we adapting? how much attention are we paying to artificial intelligence, and what impact does it have to learning outcomes, for instance? Are students going to be using generative AI to do their papers, the papers they write, their projects? What policy can the universities have in line with that? Are universities ready with generative AI detection? I mean, content generated detection systems, for instance. And even if that were the case, what other critical skills are universities going to enhance, in the learners? Are they going to allow generative artificial intelligence coexist? I mean, it's a discussion going back to, the example of 1960s when the first time there were calculators. And I understand there was a lot of discussion by the math teachers. Do we allow learners to use calculators or not? So we are getting into another era of that nature where there is something that is transformative, revolutionary. How do we take advantage of it? And then to the broader Kenyan landscape, and I know not all are in the academia or in government, but you heard about the digital divide, which is still a discussion on whether it's being bridged, the gap is being bridged or not. What role are African countries playing? Okay, what role are we playing? Today I read a very good, article in the newspaper by Ambassador Professor Bitange Ndemo. He always writes a lot, and he was saying, how are we going to make sure that we will not be playing catch up on artificial intelligence? And so the applications are far and wide, from agriculture, from health, from security, for knowledge work, and so many others. So it's a discussion, and this is, I think, something for us to think about. How are we going to do this? I don't have all the answers. My lens is very narrow to what I do, but I call on all of us to come together and think through how are we going to make sure that we are not being left behind. And also within your organization, what are you going to do at your organization? Do you have a model for implementing generative or artificial intelligence in your organization? And how do you go about choosing those models? So there are a lot of resources that are available in that regard, and time permitting and through our very good society, we can share this. I know the slide will be shared, and also some resources, and we can have through the society follow-up webinars and discussions. I just want to show for practical, I want to show something on how this thing works in the practical sense. Yeah, okay. Let me share my screen one more time, and I show this. So this is ChatGPT, for instance, 3.5. If I want, and this is the free version. This is the let me put this in the chat. If you allow me, I put that link in the chat. So through that link, I get to this place and I can just start a discussion, okay? So I can ask ChatGPT, assuming or acting as, so let me, okay, acting as a university professor. Provide, or yes, you can say suggest topics I can present to an audience on the state, just what we are doing on the state of knowledge management and artificial intelligence in Kenya. Then I enter. You see what it has done? So this is, I've just asked ChatGPT, acting as a university professor, suggest topics I can present to an audience on the state of knowledge management and artificial intelligence in Kenya. And you see, it's talking to me, and this is the demonstration about it being conversational. Certainly, I would be happy to help you come up with some interesting topics related to the state of knowledge and artificial intelligence in Kenya. And it's giving me adoption of AI in Kenyan industries, explore how different sectors, challenges and opportunities in AI in education. I can discuss the current state of AI education in Kenya, including university programs, courses, workshops, highlight the challenges educators and students face, and then also social and ethical implications of AI in Kenya, and also AI in healthcare, improving access and diagnostics. Showcase, how AI has been utilized to expand access to healthcare services in remote areas, and how it's aiding, early disease detection and so on and so forth. Agricultural transformation with AI, yield, pest detection, and then language and culture preservation through AI. This is so important. Discuss initiatives that leverage AI to preserve and promote Kenya's diverse languages and cultures. AI-driven financial inclusion, mobile banking, digital lending, natural resource management and conservations, present ways in which wildlife conservation, habitat monitoring, government initiatives and AI strategy, the role of policies and all that. So it can go on and on and on and on. So what this is doing, you can imagine if I was alone and I'm preparing a presentation. I didn't ask it to do this. In fact, I think I should copy this question. I think I missed something. Let me edit this. Knowledge, I think I didn't write knowledge management. Okay, so you can see, and I hope my presentation is different from this, but it's telling me the title, Exploring the Intersection of Knowledge Management and Artificial Intelligence in Kenya, Current Trends and Future, and it gives me an abstract. It gives me presentation topics. Okay, current state of knowledge management, artificial intelligence landscape, convergence of AI and knowledge management, challenges, opportunities, ethical and social, future trends and possibilities, collaboration for innovation, path forward for Kenya. And then in conclusion, it tells me in this presentation, we have explored the symbiotic, relationship between knowledge management and AI. By embracing these technologies thoughtfully and collaboratively, Kenya has potential to position itself as a leader in innovative and sustainable development, improving the lives of its citizens and contributing to global advancements. Now, you can see from this, this is a powerful brainstorming tool. In fact, even if all of us on this call were let to work on it, maybe we would not be able to come up with such a fast draft as quick as this tool does. So this is where we are saying for knowledge management, this tool has been trained on, I don't know how many articles or words, but the other bit that is a little worrying is that the owners are not disclosing where their data is coming from. But nonetheless, you can see this tool is able to brainstorm, is able to generate fast drafts very quickly. It's able to talk to me, okay? And I can even ask him. I can ask again and say, suggest possible research objectives. Okay, I can say doctoral level research objectives for a study based on the above presentation. So you see, it's suggesting to me very quickly, you see, so it's what we have there. I'm just asking him, what objectives? Investigate current state of knowledge management, analyze, and all that. And then I can also can ask, can you make these objectives smart? So you can see, you talk to it, absolutely. These research objectives, let's make this smart, specific, and all that, And you can see it goes into detail, tells you how do you make it measurable, how do you make it specific, time bound, and so on and so forth. And it does that to all the objectives. So in short, back to my presentation. Back to the presentation here. Summarize. This is my last slide. Like yourselves, I have tested these tools, the generative AI. Not be scared. In fact, far from replacing knowledge management, what I see as a very big window for us is managing tacit knowledge. For explicit knowledge in form of documents, that is gone, because it's able to generate all this. It's able to do much more in a very short period of time. So as you've just seen, you talk to it. I know in the interest of time, we are 33 minutes past the hour. We may not go into cloud 2 and see, but you can see for explicit knowledge, this tool is wonderful. I can create a manual. I can create a fraud detection standard operating procedure. Okay, let's say for my friend and colleague Humphrey Muturi, how do I know that an insurance claim could be faulty? How do I get how do I detect? If I'm in the accounting field, how do I know? For instance, even KRA, okay, Lorna, no, I mean a colleague, Sarah, is it Sarah? Yes. If I want to know that tax returns could have been doctored, what should I look for? You know, there are experienced colleagues within the authority who know how to do that. They just look at the whatever and they say. But this generative AI is able to use your own techniques, internal as well as external best practice to generate for you. So it's very good. We should leverage on generative AI capabilities to increase efficiency in explicit knowledge management. However, we have a very big window of opportunity in tacit knowledge management and also soft skills, which become more important for the unit. Soft skills like critical thinking, interpersonal skills, and all that. And you see, generative AI is as good as the questions, the prompts that you ask it. So in conclusion, AI may replace some people doing some jobs, but it can only replace you if you remain behind. So as practitioners, as enthusiasts, as our teachers like Dr. Asha Wano who are here, Daktari, was it Cheriot or someone, I don't remember the name, but from the civil aviation, if we keep away from these tools, there could be a risk we could be replaced. However, for me, I'm already using it to make my work efficient. There are concerns about data protection and all that, but yeah, you manage the risks incrementally. So you don't, you choose what, because in information handling or data, you know what is it that cannot be disastrous if it goes out and what can be disastrous. So that is my summary, and I'm happy the opportunity you have given me to speak before you today as a speaker, but before equals, and glad to connect. And I return the mic to Geoffrey.
Thank you so much, Daktari, for that sharing. I mean, I was about to give you maybe 5 minutes to just demonstrate the Cloud 2, just to demonstrate on that, just in case if there is someone who had a question on that. Colleagues, as you prepare to maybe ask, make comments or ask any questions that you may have, the purpose for these engagements that we are having here, as you can see, is we are having practical best practice webinars. We don't want theory. And that's why you can see John really making practical presentations, giving real life experiences and examples on what is happening and how you can use that. So if there is anything that you can pick and take home, is really those demonstrations that can help you in your daily endeavors. So, Daktari, I don't know if you have a moment you can demonstrate on Cloud 2, and then we ask questions. I think we still have a window of about 10 minutes after past the end of our session. Thank you.
Yeah, I can set up I can sign in, and maybe we can take questions as I sign in, and then I'll demonstrate
Perfect.
that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you very much. I will start with the comments. Those who have comments to make, your floor, the floor is open. Perhaps if I can see a show of hand, or if you can unmute in case you are not able to raise your hand. If you unmute, I'll be able to see. To start with, I can see Stephen. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and thank you, John, for your presentation. For purposes of openness, I'm also a student of a PhD student, and currently I'm doing a study on plagiarism and how it affects academic integrity. And one of the areas that I'm looking at in relation to plagiarism is the use of OpenAI or AI, ChatGTP, cloud, etc., etc. And what has amused me is how powerful this tool is, or these tools are. Currently, there's, for purposes of confidentiality, I will not say, I will not name the person, but currently there's a student a master's student who has managed to do his entire thesis using ChatGTP, from the title to literature, and of course, what you've demonstrated. They've even given commands on how to generate citation using APA 7th edition. It has done all that. It is an amazing tool. It's a very powerful tool. It has been able to generate responses, develop a questionnaire, come up with responses. All that chapter 4 taken care of, chapter 5 taken care of. It is actually being looked at by this person's supervisors right now. Yet they don't even know that it has been handled by ChatGPT. So my biggest concern when using OpenAI is basically the integrity part of it. Are we as knowledge managers? Is this the knowledge you want to manage? What are we risking? The other day we were looking at. I was actually reading that out of 3 people, 1 is holding a fake certificate, partly due to ghostwriters. Kenya is a hub for ghostwriters. So we are saying we are knowledge providers, but in this case, I'm putting knowledge in quote. So we are looking at a very powerful tool that, yes, we can use in our work here and there, but how about academia? That is my question. I submit.
Thank you very much for that, Stephen. And it is indeed true. It's actually a challenge to tutors, lecturers, professors. I remember one time, I think Moturi, having been my classmate, Dr. Owano here, when we were having group discussions back in the days on indigenous knowledge, how people used to struggle to come up with a paper, just a 5 to 10 page document on indigenous knowledge, really. And I remember the questions we were being asked. No, this one you didn't. You left out something. You left out this and that. So I'm sure now, Daktari, if we wrote that paper now, for sure we will beat you down, Neil. But it's a good thing, but it has got its own challenges, really. And the discussion is I mean, the floor is open for getting divergent, different views against or pro, on these tools. But for the sake of time, I can see Moturi. Please go ahead.
Okay, thanks so much, Jeffrey, and John. Thanks so much for this passionate presentation that you made. Now, I'm also interested in AI and data analytics, and my key focus is on the ethical aspects. Now, I know one thing that you raised is that we have a concern around where the AI mechanism is getting data from. Do we think with our, concern around our data, are we headed in a direction whereby we can't be safe with our data because maybe the AI systems will be able to, either, penetrate into our personal spaces and get our personal data, which now, might be available to, anybody else who accesses these platforms. So maybe it's something I would want us to have a discussion on around the ethics and the ethical aspects around the AI. Thanks so much, John.
All right, thank you very much. I would give John an opportunity to respond to the two, then Safari will be next.
Thanks so much, colleagues. These are very valid and weighty questions. Some are touching on policy. I may not be best placed, and I think this is one of the reasons we are having this discussion. How do we move forward in light of this? Having said that, I've put in the chat, and I'll put more because I've also been very interested in that regard. You will find that several universities, like Hong Kong University, there are also universities, a group of universities in the UK. It's called, I'm going to put it in the chat here, have developed and approved guidelines and policies on how students can use, and guides on how students can use generative AI. So what I'm seeing for me is we are quickly going to move into a post. There is a possibility of a post-plagiarism era. And I'll put for you a link of another webinar I attended, facilitated by Professor Eric Sui of Hong Kong University. There is a strong possibility we are going to move into post-plagiarism era, because it's very contentious. Why do you insist the student has to read all that and synthesize it and bring it and then earn their paper? Whereas there is a tool that if the student knows what they want to ask the tool, they'll get the answer. I think the guideline, and if you read these guidelines, you will see, just like I will read your work and write it in my own words, if I can use AI and not copy paste these words, because the prompt comes from the student or the learner, I think these are possibilities. And please remember in the 1960s, when maths teachers protested against the use of calculators, this is such an epoch, an era. There will have to be protests. We hope they don't get into maandamano, kind of, okay? But this is revolutionary. And so how do we guide students to ask the right questions? If at work, I didn't study pedagogy, but now I can prepare a lesson plan. The other day I was discussing with Muturi. My background, initially I studied literature and philosophy. That was my undergraduate. Then I got into knowledge management by practice and accident. Then under master's and a doctorate now in the works. I was asking Muturi, I need to go to the Kenya Technical Trainers Teachers College something so that I can be trained on pedagogy, all right? However, with this tool, I now know how to do lesson plans. I know how to sequence what questions to ask and so on and so forth. In knowledge management, you don't reinvent the wheel. This is a cardinal principle in knowledge management. If somebody else has done it, and I'm not copying that, why insist that it has to be painful for the learner to earn it? I'm not saying it shouldn't. But these are some of the valid questions that are there. And referring to Professor Ndemo's article, which I can also put up here, are we being left behind? Are we remaining behind and being caught in that divide one more time? Okay, because we will insist you have to do it the old way. But the rest of the world is moving faster and saying, no, we recognize there is something happening here and there is a new way of doing it without causing so much pain. So how do you do that? I think these are ethical and all questions that are there. I'm just putting this in the chat as well, the Professor Ndengo article. And then for Muturi, I don't have an answer on, the ethical dimensions on use of AI and data analytics. Okay, the AI in data analytics. They are really valid concerns. Even with this tool but itself, we don't know. The creators have not revealed what is behind it. And it will interest you to know, colleagues, there are articles that are behind what is called a paywall. There are articles, you see, like if you go to Emerald, the articles you will not access unless you pay or unless your institution of affiliation has paid for it. ChatGPT, these tools are able to go behind paywalls and get you all those articles. Now they have been sued actually because they come read your book and pick stuff and train their models on it. You don't get paid, but it becomes available democratically to everyone. So I think these are really questions that we need to ponder much about. But Stephen, very valid points. Muturi, I don't have all the answers. However, let's not insist it has to be very painful to earn some of these things. You can see universities are already adopting guidelines. So how are we thinking about it? And I'm happy we have doctors within. I know the answers are not adequate, but I think I return the mic to Geoffrey. You wanted to invite Dr. Agure.
Yes, Daktari, Safari,
Yeah.
you can unmute and make your remarks.
Thank you, Gigi, and thank you, John. And I'm very, my eyes are very open for this presentation, and I really love the presentation. The first thing I need to say is that we can't run away from AI or anything towards technology. We cannot run away, and I'm agreeing with you totally 100%, John. We can't run away. We, as a Kenya, we need to decide, and I think Demo has already set the pace. And maybe this is where Gigi, where the society can come in strongly. We cannot keep playing catch up in Kenya. I've looked at your link in Korea, and I can see it's working. So if something is working, and you say we don't reinvent the wheel, true, why make things difficult? As you're saying, yeah, it's a very good question. Why make things difficult? If you have tools that can make things easier, why not embrace them? However, we need the policy frameworks. We need the guidelines and regulations, which we don't have yet in Kenya. Maybe they have it already in the Western countries. And it's something now maybe we need to go into, association, we need to go into and see how we can start regulating this before it catches up with us, because it will. It's not something we are going, it's not a maybe, it is something that is going to happen. And so we just have to embrace it and
Sorry, Safari, you can unmute. I think there is
Sorry, I didn't know I was still muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. So I was saying, John, thank you so much for the presentation, and it's a very eye-opening. And I'll just sum it up by saying we cannot run away from AI or any form of technology. It's coming. We just need to prepare for it. So we just need to embrace change and not keep playing catch up as in Kenya. Dr. Ndamo has already set the pace with some writing. I think Gigi, the association at this point, the society can come in strong because we need to prepare in terms of regulations. You've talked about guidelines or on policies. We just need to prepare because it is coming. And it's not something that is a maybe, it's something that will definitely come. Now, the challenges that are being experienced, of course, there'll be challenges in anything new, when everything that comes new. And I think that can just be handled, as I say, by being prepared. And so my suggestion is, let's embrace this technology, this AI and everything it can do for us. And let's take the positives it can do for us and the best practices it can do for us and run away with that as we take care of the ethics and the plagiarism and all those other concerns that can be raised. There are things that can be taken care of. Yeah, that's my comment on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Safari. Maybe we can take 2 more as we come to the close. I know it's an interesting area. John, we will still assign you at some point. We do the cloud, the part 2 of this. We would like to respect the time we set for our colleagues. You know, they have busy schedules. Some of them may have rushed from work just to attend to this session. So maybe in the next 5 minutes, we will wind up. Let me take 2 more from Brian, then Matthew, and then we will see if there's any burning one in that order. Brian, then Matthew.
Yes, good evening. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay, my name is Brian Robert, a student at Technical University of Kenya. Okay, I've been listening to the presentation, and I think another part which we are skipping is that when it comes to in terms of plagiarism, it has become more and more difficult to detect AI. For example, you can use the ChatGPT to create a content, as well as then, but if you use, for example, if you turn it in, it will detect the AI, that the content has been generated by AI. However, students have developed an intelligence, let me tell you, an intelligence or somehow knowledge of how to convert that kind of that content into undetectable content. For example, there's a tool also used, is known as Stillwell. If I copy the content from ChatGPT, then I paste it in the Stillwell, then I can humanize the content so that it can look like it is human written. If you take it to the Turnitin, that is majorly used by the universities, it is undetectable, and it's going to tell you zero AI written. So I think the best way is, let's just, for example, in our universities, I think we should come up with a strategy, more of like a syllabus, to teach the students how to embrace the AI, as well as how to use the AI, so that we can make it as the same as in our universities. We are teaching common units like communication skills. So I think we can embrace AI too, because if we say that we are going to detect plagiarism, at this moment, it is very difficult. People can bypass plagiarism. And I think each and every university has, let me say, for example, only students who doesn't know to use the softwares and the AIs on the internet can be caught, to be sincere. But if a student knows how to use the software, the student is undetectable. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Geoffrey, go ahead. Yeah. Moderate here.
Yes, Nzuki, thank you, John. Nzuki, you can go next.
Thank you so much, John, for that informative presentation that you've given us. It's really evident, and we can see the passion that you have for AI. Now, my question is straightforward. I want to know how can us knowledge practitioners leverage on the AI, especially in the harvesting of tacit knowledge in our working environments? Because you find most of the staff who have the silo mentality, that they don't want to share knowledge even at the point of retirement. So how can we embed the AI and leverage on it so that as knowledge practitioners we are able to put the knowledge management into proper practice at the workplace? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, my brother Matthew. Any other last comment or question from the floor, so that we don't lock you out? All right, John, I think you. Yes, please.
I'm back. Sorry.
Elona, you can ask the question.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. John. And this is away from the presentation, but also centered to knowledge management. It's really challenging to get attachment internships in the knowledge management sector specifically. What do you think you would advise on that? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I think one, I know John would respond to that. I can quickly also respond. These forums that we have is one step of identifying the institutions that are actually implementing knowledge management. And by knowing the organizations, then you can drop your CV or your requests to those organizations. I've seen students get a lot of challenges because they do not know which organization is implementing knowledge management. And John, I think you would agree with me, there is a separation, a very thin separation between library and knowledge management, and even records management. They are interrelated, closely interrelated disciplines. So you will find, if you came, for example, to KENA or KRA or KCAA, Energy Regulatory Authority, Kenyan, those organizations that I am well aware of that are implementing knowledge management, for instance, you'll find there's a knowledge management unit, there's a records management unit, there is a library unit. You see, they are separated but interrelated, and they handle different kinds of knowledge resources. There are records, there are information materials, books, and all that. And the knowledge management unit then comes in handy to deal with the people aspects of knowledge management, what we call the tacit knowledge, which I think John would respond to, which is very, very difficult to link to AI. That is where the separation is, like he mentioned. You see, you cannot take the mind of people and attach AI to it. That is where the knowledge managers comes in to harvest that through this kind of engagements. But the one that is documented, as he has presented, the explicit knowledge that is documented, AI is able to harvest that, to pick and give us the results for whatever manner of resources that we want. But I will leave it to him to respond. Over to you, John.
Yeah, thanks very much, colleagues. Matthew Nzuki, I don't want to, I mean, it's not the silver bullet. You see, every new technology that comes, there is always a buzz around it. And sometimes we can be carried away and think the silver bullet, far from it. However, this is how I've used generative AI to create content, okay? I have, in the organization through my hierarchy and colleagues, we created a session called Hangout With. So on a day, on Friday, we say hang out with Geoffrey, or hang out with Lorna, or Dr. Agure, or Dr. Wano. So on that day, the person is like free interaction. They tell you their story, their experience within the organization, anything about themselves and about their experience in the organization. Once that is done, and you know, even now I can speak, and Microsoft Word can type. You know, these days I don't type my emails, for instance. I don't type. In fact, I type very few things. I just speak and I put Microsoft Word to type them for me. Okay, it will type them with a few errors, without full stops, punctuation, and then I go into. So for me, this is how I write. I take advantage of the tools. I mean, if I'm writing my project, I just speak instead of speaking, thinking, and typing, which will slow me down. So one way we use generative AI to capture tacit knowledge is through Hangout with Nzuki. You speak about what unique experiences have you had. And I pick that and record them using Microsoft Word. And then using AI, I ask it specific questions. What are critical information? What is critical information or knowledge in this passage? And it will pick it out for me. Okay? And I can move it into a knowledge base, because we have knowledge bases where people query. The other example is we had exit interviews. We normally have, and I know exit interviews is a technique used to capture knowledge. This tacit knowledge normally, these exit interviews were mostly typed. So what we have done with generative AI, if I get your photo, Matthew, I can create a Matthew Nzuki with your photo. And I can feed it with a text based on your exit interview, and it will speak. So I will create your video. This is some of this part of the special project. I'm going into the database of exit interviews, digging for exciting things using AI. I ask AI, tell me what is critical in these 10 interviews. Once I get it, I pick the photo, because normally you leave a photo in the organization. And I can create a video, maybe not looking exactly like you, but we seek consent, of course. And then I put that in SharePoint, a place I call Employees Corner. Now, in that place, employees can go and see, and then you tag them. So in knowledge management, you all know tagging is so critical. You tag them appropriately. So you will find you can use what is explicit, convert it, tacit, that was converted into explicit, and make it interactive. So this is one way which you can use. There are several ways, but it all depends on your context. It depends on your budget, and it also depends on the sponsorship, on the sponsors, because you can't do all these things unless you have some people high in your hierarchy who are supportive, who are providing you with the air cover. You know, there's always politics in each organization. You will not do it and it will work. You will always get, these stones when you want to produce a good fruit. Okay, so who covers you? Who gives you the budget? But we can explore further, as Geoffrey guided brilliantly. These are some of the practical things. If we had time, I could show like some characters I've created based on exit interviews. And I used AI to pick what is critical. I didn't know, but AI tells me this is what is critical in the whole verbatim. If we record this call today, we've recorded it, we can put it through AI and ask it to pick what is critical and you will be amazed what it will pick. So some example there. And Lorna, I think Geoffrey has answered. It's about agency, it's about reaching out, it's about networking. And I think the Technical University is also very proactive, and other universities as well, insofar as linkage with the industry is concerned. So yeah, some work to be done, and it's ongoing, but you know, it also depends on the individual. Some of these things depend on the individual. And Robert, yeah, thanks very much for your comments, and I would like to follow up with you. And I think it would also be interest to Stephen. They are smart tools, very smart. In fact, for me, if I write something with ChatGPT, just next day, like Brian is saying, 0, you will not detect it. And so why are we playing catch up? Why do we want to make it painful? While there is a calculator that makes math easier. So valid, ethical, intellectual property questions, but I think it's an interesting moment. And I think that's why Geoffrey puts us together here to brainstorm and think together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. for that. I think I think Kulinda put it better by way of closing remarks from what you just said. And given that the time is fast spent, I wish to thank each and every one of you for finding and sacrificing really your time to attend to this quite engaging webinar or discussion that we've had. Should you have any further questions or any topic of interest, you can always send it to us. You can check on our website. The emails are provided there. The contacts are provided there. And you can suggest those topical discussions for us really to be able to deliberate on. We have tried as much as possible to make sure that these webinars are free of charge. We are not charging anyone anything except investing your time to attend. If it interests you, you can register as a member using the information provided on the website, and let's grow this body together. If anything, let's learn together. If anything, we can have the likes of, if I may use our example, Lorna, to get placements in the places where we work. I can tell you there are many people pursuing knowledge management, but they don't know where to get placements, attachments, internship. This is the place to be, to learn from each other and even get networks, get to know which place is you know, implementing knowledge management, and how can we get you involved so that you can learn, so that we can you know, together champion knowledge management. And we are the people to, in my view, to bring sense to artificial intelligence in the Kenyan context. Combining our experience, expertise in knowledge management, capturing, recapturing, you know, collating information and harvesting, you know, tacit knowledge and all that is one way of bringing in the good aspect of generative artificial intelligence. So thank you very much. John, thank you for your time, investing your time and really heeding to the call of the best practice aspect of these sessions. I remember one time we've been struggling where you find that professional bodies, when you attend, you get to hear a lot of theory. And whereas people would want to pick something that is of value to them, to their organization. What is it? I am sure there are very many people here, when they sit back to reflect on what you have
Thanks very much. It's been an honor. Let's learn together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Daktari Owano, you know, you're our senior here, not forgetting the many of us here. Maybe you can tell us a word of Kwaheri as well.
I think it's been a privilege sitting on the other side, because I've learned a lot from those who learned from me. So they know better than I do. So like I think John said, learning does not end. So I'll engage with you. And I think from here, what I'm seeing is that the profession guided by Nyamasege and the group need actually to reach out to these universities that are offering knowledge management for students to register, so that they get to become experts before they even graduate. I think that way is even easier to network, so that you know how to get jobs. Because I know when I was a student, that was one of the criteria that was used, that you have to be a member of a professional association before you graduate. And you also attend their seminars, conferences, and the like. And I really appreciate the organization of this. I can't tell you the source of how I got the contact, but I think it is nice to network. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daktari. We indeed, through the leadership, we will reach out, and because of the concerted efforts, I think the registration fee for, or subscription fee for students is actually 1,000 per year. And we said that let no student fail to benefit from this network because they don't have resources. Let them express the interest of registering. We will seek resources elsewhere to sponsor them to register. I think some of us, like John, myself, and many of us, we are more than willing to even sponsor 10 students to register. Because what else can we return to the society if it is not for such? This is our desire, and I want to challenge us that may we spread the word also to the rest who are interested to join us. We join hands to help one another learn and grow. So thank you very much, and have a good night, and see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks and bye-bye.